Welcome back. Today, we will show you how to build Android and iOS apps that consumes the CRUD REST API. Almost all Android and iOS apps access data using REST API. In the Flutter applications, these requirements will be done using the HTTP package. We will use our simple Node-Express-MongoDB REST API as the REST API backend. So we will focus this tutorial on how to access the REST API using the Flutter HTTP package. This tutorial divided into several steps. Step number 1, preparation. Step number 2, create a Flutter application. Step number 3, create Flutter HTTP service. Step number 4, display list of data. Step number 5, show data details. Step number 6, add a new data. Step number 7, edit the data. Step number 8, run and test Flutter applications to Android and iOS devices. The following tools, frameworks, and libraries are required for this tutorial: Flutter SDK, Node-Express REST API. You can find the links for this MongoDB and Express REST API in the description below. Android SDK, Xcode, Terminal on Mac or Linux, or CMD on Windows. IDE, Android Studio, IntelliJ, or Visual Studio Code. Let's get started to the main steps. Step number 1, preparation. Install Flutter SDK. To install Flutter SDK, first we have to download Flutter macOS 1.20.0-stable.zip. Then extract the file to your desired location. Next, add Flutter tools to the path. Next, to make iOS and Android binaries can be downloaded ahead of time, type this Flutter command. Check the required dependencies. To check the environment and displays reports to the terminal windows, to find dependencies that's required to install, type this command. To fix the issues like this, just connect the Android device using your USB cable. Setup IDE. We need to set up the IDE to make it working with the Flutter app easily and compatibly. Start the Android Studio. We will use this IDE, then opens Android Studio menu preference. Or click Configure Preferences. Choose Plugin in the left pane. Type Flutter in the Plugins Marketplace. Then click the Install button if it was not installed yet. If there's a prompt to install Dart, click Yes. Restart the IDE when the prompts to ask restart. Now the Flutter is ready to develop Android and iOS mobile apps. Step number 2, create a Flutter application. After the IDE setup completes, it will back to the Android starting dialog. Choose Start a new Flutter project. Then choose Flutter Applications. Click the Next button. Then fill the required fields and choose the previously installed Flutter SDK. Click the Next buttons. Then fill the package name with your own domain and leave the include Kotlin support for Android code and inclusive support for iOS code blank. Click the Finish button. and the Flutter application creation is in progress. Next, run the Flutter application for the first time. In the Android Studio toolbar, choose the devices. We are using Android Studio emulator and the main dart, then click the play button. Step number 3. Create Flutter HTTP service. As we mentioned in the first paragraph, we will use the HTTP library package to access the RESTful API from the REST API server. For that, install this package by open and edit pubspec YAML, then add this dependency under other dependencies. Next, click the pubget button in the footer commands at the top of pubspec YAML content. These commands will install and register the dependencies. Next, create a package in the lib folder and name it as models. Then add a Dart file inside these models with the name chassis Dart. This model will represent the response from the REST API. This class is about coronavirus chassis, so the content of this class should be like this. This Dart class contains the required variables that same as the response from the REST API, and also contains a constructor which is filled with the required variables or fields, and then a functions or method to converting the JSON response to the map of strings and dynamic. It's also an overriding string to strings that will return the chassis ID, name, and age if this class is called or accessed. Next, create a package in class or objects, libs, services, API underscore service, where we will put all CRUD, post, get, put, and delete methods to the REST API. Fill this class with these CRUD operations of HTTP requests to the REST API. First, add the required imports and then create the class name. Declare the variable for API URL. Add a method to get chassis by call the REST API gets, and add the method to get chases by ID, which the request included parameters of ID. Add a post method that will post the data from the Flutter form to the REST API. Add the put method or update chase identified by ID, parameters, and posting a new data mapping by the chases object. And finally, add the delete method with the ID params. This request will delete one chase data by ID in the REST API. Step number 4. Display list of data. We will display the list of data in the separate Dart file that will call from the main Dart homepage body. For that, we need a Dart file to view the list of data. Create a lib.checklist Dart file, then add this import. Create a class name that extends stateless widget objects. Inside this class, declare list variable that holds chances list that loaded from the main Dart and create key for the list. Add an override method after the variables to build the list view widget for the list chases. That list builder contains the card that has a child of inkwell that used to navigate to the detail widget using material page route. The child of the card is list style that contains an icon, text for title, and text for subtitle. The inkwell widget has on-tap event with an actions to navigate details page. Container column, image, and text have their own properties to adjust the style or layout. Keep in mind, every widget that uses the child only has one widget as its child. If you need to put more than one widget to the parent widget, use children widget property. Next, open and edit lib main Dart. Then replace all Dart codes with these lines of codes to display the list view in the main homepage. We use the existing floating button as the Add Data button with an actions to go to Add Data widget. Step number 5. Show data details. We will display data details to another page that opened when tapping on the list item in the list page. For that, create a .dat file in the lib folder. First, lib detail widget Dart. We will use a scrollable card widget to display a detail to prevent overflow if the card contents is longer. Next, open and edit lib detail widget Dart, then add this import of Flutter material, database helper, edit data widgets, and chases object model. Add a detail widget class that extends stateful widgets. This class has a constructor with an objects field, a field of chases objects, and detail widget state that builds the view for data details. Add the detail widget state class that implementing all required widgets to display data details. This code builds widget combinations of container, card, column, image text, and rise button. The rise button has on press event that actions to navigate to edit data widgets and trigger direct confirm dialog. Next, before the closing of detail widget state, class, body, add this method or functions to navigate to the edit data widgets. To handle the delete button, we need to add a method or functions after the above methods that shows an alert dialog to confirm if data will be deleted. Step number 6. Add a new data. We will create a new Dart file for the entry form to add new data. In the form, there will be a text field form, radio button, and submit button. Create a new Dart file, leave add data widget Dart, then add these imports to this file. The text form field will use datetime fields and text editing controller to binding the value, but for the radio button, we will binding it manually by first adding the enum variables after the imports. Next, we add a class of addDataWidgets that extends stateful widgets and has a constructor and addDataWidgets state initiation. Now create a class that's called addDataWidget class that will build the layout for the addData. This class declares or requires variables that will save to the REST API, data binding, database helper initiations, and form declarations. The form contains the text form field, radio button, and submit button. The action on submit will save to the data REST API, then redirect back to the list view. Step number 7. Edit the data. The layout for edit data is the same as the edit view with additional objects forms that gets from the details page. These objects will fill the default value of the text form field, radio button, and submit button. On the submit, it will update the data based on the ID, then redirect to the list view. First, create a new Dart file in the lib folder, lib edit data widgets. Open and edit that file, then add these lines of the Dart codes to build the edit data form and functions to submit this form to the REST API. Step number 8. Run and test Flutter applications to Android and iOS devices. To run these Flutter apps to Android, simply click the play button in the Android Studio toolbar. Make sure your Android device is connected to your computer and appear in Android Studio toolbar. Don't forget to run the REST API in the terminal.